So I have a question for you. Have you ever accidentally thought that you were a multimillionaire? Well, Ilhan Omar says she is not a multimillionaire. And look at this headline from the Wall Street Journal. She thought she was, though. Omar was standing down. Look at this headline. Ilhan Omar says she isn't a multimillionaire, blames accounting error. Okay, so an accounting error led her to believe she was very wealthy. Well, Omar was staring down a potential investigation after disclosing that she and her husband's assets were valued between $6 million and $30 million on a financial disclosure form. Now listen to this. That was an astronomical increase in wealth from her last disclosure, but she has since amended her filing, now saying that her assets are valued between $18,004 to $95,000. So 6 to 30 million to under 100,000. How in the world does that happen? Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, quote, aides said that Omar looked at the form before it was filed in 2025, but that the error did not jump off the page for her because she isn't involved with her husband's businesses. Okay, wow.
Congresswoman Omar, the last time I spoke to you, you said that I was stupid for asking you about your financial disclosure, but there's some discrepancies on there. Would you like to explain that? How did you make such a big mistake on it?
I still do think you're stupid for asking me anything.
I am?
Yes.
Well, what about the American people who are wondering how you made such a big
I have
mistake?
explained to the American people.
What's the explanation?
I have given them the explanation.
Do you want to tell our viewers? Because they're
I don't want to tell you jack shit.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
I've given them the explanation.
Do you want to tell our viewers? Because they're
I don't want to tell you jack shit.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Did you see last month she accidentally checked the wrong box? It said she was worth $38 million. And law enforcement came after her for that. And then all of a sudden she was worth less than $80,000. And she said it was accounting. It was an accounting error. That was not a very good accountant, was it? Huh? No. Their whole life is based on fraud and a scam. The whole thing is a scam. And we ought to get those people the hell out of our country.
An accounting error made by her husband's business professionals. Her husband's a fellow by the name of Tim Minette, a Democrat political consultant who ran her campaigns and whom she married while he was still reportedly married to another woman, by the way. He had his business professionals file a disclosure that accidentally added $30 million to the family's net worth. That's the story they're going with. So now you may ask, where did the inflated numbers come from? What accounted for those millions of dollars? Well, as it turns out, they both go back to two businesses. The first is a winery called Est Cru. It's spelled ESTCRU. It's a Sonoma County winery that Minette co-founded with his business partner, Will Haler. And in her 2023 disclosure, Omar valued it at between $15,000 to $50,000. That was at $15,000 to $50,000. That's back in 2023. In 2024, in her disclosure, it had jumped to be between $1 million and $5 million. But there are serious problems with that. There's apparently no tasting room. There's no functioning website. And the most damning discrepancy of them all, there's actually no wine for sale. How can you account for a surge in wine sales when you ain't selling any wine?
So Ilhan Omar's net worth just supposedly dropped from about $30 million to less than $100,000 after her office cited an accounting error for why it was originally reported so high. An accounting error for the difference of more than $29 million. Now look, I'm no mathematician, but I don't know of an accounting error that would inflate your net worth by more than 300 times and you wouldn't catch that. Like if I were filing my taxes and I got to the end of it and it said I had assets worth more than $30 million, I know I've screwed up somewhere. But now Omar's office says she's only worth between about $20,000 and $95,000 because the accountant made a boo-boo. Oh, and they just happened to find this error after Omar became the subject of a congressional investigation because she's only been in office for about 6 years, and yet somehow she's gone from being an ordinary person to a multi-millionaire by making $174,000 a year. And now we're supposed to believe that, oops, somebody just carried a zero wrong. Our bad. And this from the office of the woman that helped funnel hundreds of millions of dollars into Somali charities that turned out to be total frauds. So, yeah. If you're buying this load of horse crap, I've got a hospice business in LA that I'd like to talk to you about.
Ilhan Omar entered Congress in 2019 with a net worth of next to nothing, really. But since then, she's apparently worth over $30 million. The House Oversight Committee says that's impossible without corruption. It is formally opening an investigation into Omar's mystery millions, even exploring a subpoena for Omar's husband over business gains that don't seem to add up.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes. They said you reported a net worth between $6 million and $30 million. And they said your 2023 disclosure was roughly $40,000, between $40,000 and $250,000.
Yeah, but they're not net worths. They're like the asset things for the companies. And so I don't know what percentage of it my husband actually has investment in. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? It's not a full picture.
A few moments later.
So Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar insists she's not a multi-millionaire, and she's now offering an explanation in air quotes there about why her financial disclosures say she and her husband have a net worth of $30 million.
Representative Ilhan Omar amends disclosure, slashes reported assets from millions to under $100,000, blaming an accounting error.
What? Representative Ilhan Omar says she's worth millions of dollars, but then when people said, well, how did you get that money? She says, hey, it was an accounting error. She actually is broke.
So how does someone jump from headline suggesting a massive wealth jump to saying, actually, I'm broke, and blaming a tax mistake? That is exactly the controversy surrounding Representative Ilhan Omar right now. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, there is an important distinction between public claims, reporting errors, and what's actually happened being confirmed. And because once you look closer, this story gets a lot more complicated. So if you follow politics, financial disclosure, or even media controversies, this one has definitely been making sounds online. Representative Ilhan Omar is responding to questions surrounding reports about her finances, saying there was an error involved and that the viral claims may not reflect reality. But critics aren't convinced. So what actually happened? Let's break it down. So here is how this exploded. Online discussions began circulating claims suggesting a dramatic increase tied to Omar's reported finances. Naturally, a headline like that spreads really fast. Big numbers, politicians, possible discrepancy. That's basically social media fuel. But here is where the context matters. Financial disclosures, tax-related reports, and public summaries can be misunderstood or reported inaccurately, especially when figures are taken out of context. And that seems to be where Omar's explanation comes in. According to her response, the issue was not that some people assumed, but rather an error. That's a huge difference still. When money and politics collide, skepticism follows immediately. But here is a question nobody wants to ignore. If it was just an error, how did this become such a major story in the first place? Omar's public explanation framed this as a reporting mistake rather than evidence of hidden wealth. And to be fair, critical mistakes, filing misunderstandings, and financial documentations errors do happen, and that is not exactly unheard of. But in politics, perception is everything. Even a small paperwork issue can become headline material if it involves money. And once the internet locks onto a number, good at getting nuance back into the conversation. So that's part of the real story here. Not just the claim itself, but how fast incomplete narratives spread. But let's be honest, most people react to the headline. Very few stick around for corrections. This is where political trust becomes the bigger issue. Supporters will likely say, look, mistakes happen. The explanation was given. End of story. Critics will say, hold on, public officials should be held to a higher standard. And honestly, that tension exists across politics, not just with one person. whether left, right, or even independent, financial transparency is one of the things voters care about deeply, because if public trust gets shaky, even innocent errors can feel suspicious. And that is why stories like this catch fire, not necessarily because every viral crime is true, but because people already distrust the system, and that distrust drives critics. But here is the part I think matters the most. Was this an actual scandal or just another example of internet turning a complicated paperwork into viral outrage? That's a real debate. So what do you guys think? Was this simply a reporting error that got blown way out of proportion, or do public officials deserve much tougher scrutiny when financial discrepancies, even alleged ones, show up? Remember to keep the comment section respectful. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want more breakdowns like this, kindly hit the subscribe button to join our family. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.